At Jiffy Lube, it's our job to keep you moving. With a full range of services from oil changes and tire rotations to filters, wipers, and more, we've got what your car needs right when you need it. So you're ready for whatever's next. Putting you in the driver's seat of car care? That's a job for Jiffy.
With Eversense, the long-term sensor helps me spend less time dealing with my CGM. I only need 2 sensor changes a year.
If you're on multiple doses of insulin, you might greatly benefit from the Eversense E3 CGM system, the only continuous glucose monitoring system that lasts for up to 6 months with one sensor. Still doing frequent sensor changes? Break free today with Eversense.
For important safety information and to learn more about Eversense, please visit eversensediabetes.com/safety.
What's that place you've always wanted to try? Well, you're there, sharing plates with
just one bite.
Or on second thought, maybe not sharing. It's that good. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Introducing Under Armour's Infinity High Sports Bra. Its ergonomic design is molded to support the natural movement of your body. With cord-out padding, the better breathability eliminates extra bulk without sacrificing support. And quick-dry padding is Under Armour's fastest-drying padding yet. When you're lifting heavy, running fast, and pushing yourself further than ever before, you need a bra that will help you go that extra mile and make you feel your best. Shop the Infinity High Sports Bra now at UA.com.
Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Danny Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. The HA Society is taking clients. Coach Ashley and I work one-on-one with HAers, as we call you, to help you figure out a plan and, of course, implement it and stay accountable. Whether you've worked with a health practitioner already and you just want to stay accountable and strategic with the plan that they've laid out for you, or you want to start from scratch looking at all the aspects of your recovery needs and to create a game plan to reach those needs, then we are definitely your girls. When you sign up to work one-on-one with one of us, we're going to go over your history, your biggest obstacles, ensure that we're taking into account your specific goals, and start making a plan to reach them. So those goals could be getting your period back, could be getting pregnant, could be getting back to exercise or sport, or simply working on your mindset around your body image and long-term recovery. We also can teach you the fertility awareness method. So if you want to learn that so that you have the skills you need to go out into the world on your own without fear of getting HA again, we have got your back. So our coaching packages are either weekly or bi-weekly and only a month at a time commitment. So you're not paying tons and tons of money for 5-6 months. It's month to month, which is awesome. Makes perfect sense for period recovery, right? So to learn about other women's experiences working with us and to apply for a coaching spot, plus ask any questions that you might have before getting started, just go to thehasociety.com/coaching.
Okay. Don't record this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, we're just talking about Ashley's hair.
And
her
it
regrowth
is
situation.
hormone related. It is.
Well, like what is happening with your hair? Like, what's the story here?
All right, let me give everybody the download. So my hair used to be this curly when after I had my period, right? So I grew up, I had super straight hair. I mean, like I have pictures of like pinned straight hair. And then in middle school, when I started, my hair started to get really, really curly. And then I I don't know. I don't know what kind of school I went to, but all I remember is being like, how come I can't have straight hair like all the other girls?
All the white
right?
girls.
Yes. And so I started to try to like straighten my hair, but my hair can get pretty frizzy. Anyways, long story short, it's about like, I mean, Nuggies 15 months, but I probably got my period around 4 months postpartum because we had breastfeeding problems. It was 11 months. And now my hair curl has returned, but like it's almost
but you don't know
like,
what to do because you're not trained in it.
well, that too. And it's like, do you know, like when your skin kind of breaks out whenever like you hit puberty again from like going through like HA, right? You're like, what's going on with all this oil on my face, right? Like all this. I feel like I'm going through that with my hair. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have a big scar on my head up here, and I mean, I probably showed you this on Marco Polo. I have a really big scar on my head in my hairline.
Yeah.
And so I've always had like thinner hair there because this hair just doesn't like grow on scar tissue. And but I've had since childhood to grow my hair out around it. But then when I was pregnant, I lost it all. And so I had this like visible scar on my head, and then the hair started growing back. So I have this just like little tuft of hair that it looks like I had to cut bubble gum out of my hair one spot because it's just like just this awkward length.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I feel you. There's just, it's all a bit silly.
It's so silly, but this totally brings me back around of like hair to a girl is so like big. I don't know. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah. I've always been very lucky that that's just not something I've ever had to think about or worry about. Like I've always had really thick hair. It's always been dead straight, which for the last like 2 decades has been in fashion. Because I know that my mom, you know, our parents essentially grew up in a time where people were getting perms and curling their hair all the time, and my mom's hair wouldn't curl, or like you just couldn't do it. And so she had this like dead straight hair, and she tells this story about when she was at school one time. Oh gosh, I don't remember exactly what she said, but mom's never forgotten it. One of her friends at school just turned to her and was like, your hair is just like straight and dead and sad. Or so like, I wish I remember exactly what she said, because it was like, it was so brutal. But this girl was just like laying
sad, huh? Sad?
Because back then, like, it was all about the curls. So
I look like I have a really bad perm. It's the thing right now.
I don't want to do a perm. I mean,
you want to?
I just think that I'd look great.
Oh, let's do it. Maybe like our next set of photos will all have super curly hair.
Bring it back. Let's just bring it back. Well, anyways, I have stuff to tell you, but I know you have stuff to tell me. So like,
yeah. Well, you go first.
Okay. Maybe you already started. I don't know if you checked Instagram, but so I have 5 days into coffee. We need to chill out on the coffee. So I'm like a huge coffee fan, and I'm also the biggest advocate for like, let's back off on the coffee when we're trying to restore our endocrine system. So when you have a baby, you just like get to do, you get to ignore rules. It's not that, you know, like you can't be harmed. It's just that it's just like you're just trying to get through each day by day. So, but I'm at a point now, I'm 9.5 months postpartum, and there's a few reasons. Like I have negative libido. Like I never thought you could have like negative libido, but I do. Just certain symptoms. I feel a little bit anxious, and I was like, it's time to coach myself a little bit here. Like let's look at this and make some rules. So low-hanging fruit, first things first, backing off on the coffee. So I've been having only one, because I'm down from 3, almost 2 to 3, only one a day after lunch, right? So we're like well and truly, we've had 2 meals, we're like rested. And I'm so pumped because it's day 5 and I've been dry as a bone down there. Okay. Dry as a bone, but I've had my first postpartum cervical mucus production. And so
Okay.
all of which to say, these little things really work. Like I swear at this time, that is the only change that I've made.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes a difference.
I kind of feel bad sometimes for my clients when like we get off the phone and we'll like off like a call, and by the time someone probably gets coaching, they've been through a lot with a lot of practitioners or a lot of things in general, that I think sometimes they slightly feel insulted when I'm like, let's just make these 3 or 4 small tweaks. And that's what we're going to focus on for these 2 weeks, right? Even though I know that whenever we put these 4 small tweaks together and we start doing it, and then you know what I mean, that like I know it's going to produce a huge outcome, but it almost seems so insignificant to the struggle of what got you here.
There's absolutely been many times, I'm sure, where we've had clients walk away and be like, that's it. Like that's what she wants. So true story. I had a client months ago, probably late last year, something like that, and worked together, and I gave her a very simple, like I did the full review, and there was some very simple, like low-hanging fruit, big rock changes to make. And the thing was crazy. She got her period back after a month, because she was like right there. And I told her, you're already doing so much. Your period's right there. Let's just make these tiny tweaks, get you across the line. And she did. And then it was like, okay, great. Like, this is super exciting. And then she sent me an email after all was said and done. And she was like, she kind of gave me like negative feedback. Like, she was disappointed that she's like, I feel like all you told me to do was like make this small change around this and around this. And it's like, I feel like I shouldn't need to pay for that. And it was such a tough one, because it was like, yeah, but you have your period now. Like if you want me to make this super duper complicated, so like you feel like you're getting something out of it, that's a tough situation.
No,
but it's just the reality.
Well, yeah, because I think it's the emotional baggage, everything that finally gets to this point of seeking help and then being like, fine, I will gain the weight, or yeah, I will eat the food, I will properly fuel, I will make these small tweaks, right? Or technically, like, you're not paying for a complicated thing, like you're paying for expertise and the push that you need to do the things that you don't want to do, right? And think about, like, we're all in that. But that's with almost every type of coaching.
Yeah, like, is there really anything that you couldn't figure out and learn with the internet? It's just that, like, sometimes you need someone to give you the roadmap, or to hold you accountable, or to see it from an unbiased third-party perspective.
So important. So important.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that was my news.
Yeah. So let me tell you about my news. I mean, it's not like new news, but it's like, I haven't figured out a way to word this to put it in a post. So I was like, I'm just going to talk to Danny about it. So whenever you hear, I eat blank, or, I eat in moderation, right? At first glance, it sounds super healthy. But I actually think that there's probably a large amount of people who got into HA by simply just enjoying all foods in moderation. And I think whenever we look at it, we're like, yeah, that's the definition of a healthy relationship with food. I eat all foods in moderation.
Yeah, that's not where that sentence originated from. Yeah.
Yes, but what it really is that I restrict, and I don't have any off foods. That's really what it is. I have a level of restriction, whether it's mentally, obviously, physically, like subconsciously. I am being mindful of the calories that I'm taking in, hence why I eat it in moderation.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a new red flag. And that was my red flag. And I think that's probably why it hit so hard because I didn't have any fear foods. Like when I developed HA, it was simply just, I ate all foods in moderation. I didn't care that I had a donut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was more like the portion control queen.
It fit my macros.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so now I'm like, is that really the definition of a healthy relationship with food, that I eat all foods in moderation?
Yeah, I love this. It never was meant to be eat in moderation. I see how this happens, right? There's a lot of talk in the space of like, you know, we have so much access to food now that instead of fear of famine, we actually have the opposite challenge of like not overeating. Now, I see that, like we do have
I do acknowledge that.
I do acknowledge that. That being said, it's very specifically, you know, eat total like junk food, if you will, right? Like refined processed foods, these highly palatable foods, right? High amounts of sugar, high amounts of MSG, food that's like designed to get us to keep eating. I believe like that's where that saying came from. I think like just to like debate, right, that there's value in that because these foods are designed to get us to keep on eating, that there's value in being like, okay, like bag of chips times 10, like that probably needs moderating at some point. But if those things weren't in our world, right, we would not need to moderate. So therefore we don't need to moderate everything,
which
we should be mindful of what we're eating. We shouldn't be applying moderation to everything. That's ridiculous. But I fully understand because I do it. Like I'm often stuck in that thing of like, that's a lot of fat in this meal. Like, should I moderate? Like it's like a weird thing that happens.
Yeah.
Still
and
to this day.
How this popped up is that I've noticed, and I remember, I think I was Marco Poloing you, that like you were saying, we no longer just apply this to the highly processed foods or treats, and not that we're anti that. I hope you know that by now if you've been listening to us for a while, but we'll do that to potatoes, where potatoes are naturally like satisfying. And I don't know anybody who's overeating potatoes. You know what I mean? Like we'll like apply that to beans. We'll apply that to carrots. We'll apply it to the nutrient dense foods that like we need to recover. And we're like, I can only have a little bit of this.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Like I only eat the half an avocado. Well, why do you eat only half an avocado? I don't know.
Because it just feels
weird to have a whole avocado.
because I eat in moderation. And that's where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is not what it seems. You ready for my next one? I've had a lot of like, and again, I need to put these all down in post because I've been trying to figure out how to do this. My next one is when, and I've been here too, is how could I possibly need to eat more? I eat so much, right? And I'm like, valid, but, and what I love the most is when people are like, my boyfriend, and I said this, I eat more than my husband. What are you talking about, right? And so I was talking to like a good friend and I was like, yeah, well, I bet your husband isn't eating the biggest salad known to mankind out of a mixing bowl. That is not what your husband or boyfriend is doing. That's what you're doing. And you're calling it that you eat way more than like your husband or spouse or whatever.
And when they do, because when on the occasion that I've heard of a guy that does this, right? Like a keto guy, for example.
Oh yeah.
They are still having like bacon in it, boiled eggs, blue cheese, dressing, nuts. Like it's a very, I mean, salads can be intense, but it's not like a bowl of lettuce with like a sprinkle of chicken breast and shredded carrot.
Yeah. And then my third one, it's just been so good, is whenever, so I've been having to pry volume foods out of my clients' hands.
That's a great visual.
I think I've had to ban salads like twice this week, but all for good reason. But I was like, I'm sure you love those foods. And I was thinking about, maybe I have 5 things to talk about. I was like, I'm sure that you love those foods 100%, but do you love it because you can control it? Or are you like, I'm so in love with these foods? Because if you truly love it, you can take a break from it knowing that it's going to be there, and like you can come right back to it. But I'm wondering why you love these volume foods so much that you won't eat chili, or you're like you won't eat for like
a full-on sandwich.
Yeah, or like, oh, and then even when it goes down to like the real whole foods, I'm sure you're eating real whole foods, but you're leaving out a word. You're eating real whole volume foods, because we can make plenty of whole foods meals that you naturally become like resistant to. Like I was watching a show the other day and I was like, dang, that's a bomb meal. And it was sausage, potatoes, bell peppers, and onions. I was like, yes, that's a great recovery meal. That's a great skillet to sink your teeth in and like recover. But we're super resistant to it because we can't control the portion sizes, or because like we don't know the calories, like we don't have a frame of reference.
Yeah, it's really hard. Two things here. So like, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know what we mean by volume foods, just in case we're making an assumption, volume foods are like low calorie foods that you can eat a lot of, but have like low caloric intake, like celery, cucumber, lettuce, berries. These are things that like in the diet space, you'll eat a lot of because it fills your stomach up. It makes you feel like you're eating a lot of food, or you feel like you're eating frequently because you're snacking all the time. But when we add up the energy intake, it's pretty low. And a lot of people get a little bit trapped in this idea of like, well, I'll eat more, but I'll eat more lower calorie food. And this can not only not move us forward, but in some ways set us back a little bit.
Yeah, I had to break it down. And again, I love them because I enjoy all my clients, and that's not just because we're on a podcast. Like by the time like we've worked together long enough, like you've gotten to see all of me. And so I enjoy them, but it's a really great thing of, is that vegetable, as colorful as it is it going to bring your cycle back? Like holding on to lettuce. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just simply doesn't have enough nutrients, and no one food in general, you know what I mean? But like, it just doesn't have enough for us to hold on to so tightly for, for us to be like, put our like heels in the sand about this.
Okay. So I have another important thing that I'm going to like put all my thoughts in order in the queue. So the second one was, this is actually an important topic because so in the society, we started posting recipes more, right? And at first I was like, does the world need more recipes, right? Like, does the internet need more recipes? My heartfelt opinion was no. But we keep getting asked like, what's a good recipe for that? Like so obviously like this is one of those things where I can't use my like intuition to make a decision. I just need to do it and get the evidence. And the evidence is in that like, yeah, people need help, like inspiration, because they're so used to eating in this old way. And the like, what is a good meal that has a balance of carbs, fat, and protein, that has a balance of, grains and vegetables and meat, and that has sufficient calories in it altogether? Like, people need this inspiration. And so that's why we started doing that. And it has been a valuable tool. So note to self, I need to up that because I've only been doing one a month. I need to do more.
Yeah, I was thinking we should probably do, I mean, again, just like you, I was like, they do not need a meal guide. Like, that is not what we're doing.
Like, that is the internet. That's like 50% of the internet.
That is not what we're doing. But then I was like, oh my gosh, but like, yes, I actually think it would be helpful, simply because I don't know if we even know what like, not ancestral foods, but like I keep just kind of going back to like,
what does a nourishing meal actually look like?
Yes, like actual nourishment. Like, have you actually seen a recipe where the subtitle wasn't about dieting? You know what I mean? Like, have you actually, you know what I mean? Like, how much of like the internet space is all tied to eat this to feel full, basically, and like, we can say that because we used to do that. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much out there. Yeah.
It's to where I'm like, I actually want to put like a sample day meal just so that you can see, oh my gosh, you're right. I can put these things, these like combos together because I have been so far from it. I didn't even think that that was a normal meal, right?
Would it be weird? Should we do like a day of eating for inspirational purposes? I know those can be controversial.
Yeah, they can be.
But I don't know. We'll think about it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing it from a point of view of like, this is what you should eat. I like the idea of breaking down like why this is my choice, how I feel about it, and like what you can take from it.
I feel like we should do a sample day, almost maybe like that we could put in the group maybe and be like, this is why Ashley chose this breakfast. This is why we chose this lunch. This is why we chose this dinner. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I think of like the stew that you made or that pot roast. And well, first off, I was so hungry that day, but I was like, oh my gosh, this was exactly what I needed. Praise the Lord. There was no foofy food. And thankfully it was you. So like, it wasn't going to be like this little skimpy meal, but you had made that pot roast with potatoes and carrots. And I think all of us like chowed down on it because we were just so hungry that day.
I'm so glad you made it. Like people, it's such a weird thing when people make your recipes. You're just like,
yeah,
I'm like such a blogger right now.
I was like, but you know, like I recommend that to a lot of my clients. Like, when was the last time you had a pot roast, potatoes, and carrots? You have your vegetable. It's all real food. It's whole foods, but there's a reason why you're resistant to it because you can't easily calculate or navigate the carbs, fats, and proteins in this one. So
I think a lot of us are protecting ourselves too from guilt, right? It's like, because I've looked into it for myself, right? Why am I choosing to make this salad? Why am I like trying to control what I put in it? And for me, it comes down to like, I don't want to feel bad about it later. So like I am trying to control it. And that's like a part of why I would make those decisions. And it's like at lunchtime, if I have this like heavier meal, I'm going to have feelings around what I have for dinner and this like future planning that I think is one of the big challenges and is just not where we should be making food decisions from.
Well, and again, I was talking about somebody about this, about we get so weird about meals like chili, right? Because it's nutrient dense, you know what I mean? You can't sit there and easily separate it. You can't calculate it real fast and all that in your head. And they're like, well, what if I just eat? Well, what if I go to town? I promise you're not going to overeat chili because those foods are so satisfying that like you just have a natural stop, right? Yeah. But like you won't ever know that until you allow yourself to freely eat chili. And I promise you're not going to eat the entire crock pot.
I mean, this comes to the whole like leptin conversation, right? This is a hormonal thing. And so, sometimes when you first increase your food intake, when you're going into recovery, you probably will eat more than you were expecting or have experienced before. There is a strong chance that you will, especially if you're lower in body fat when you begin, which is many of us.
Low in leptin, low in body fat, low in hormones. And so think about it, makes sense that like your body, because like we did a presentation on this and we're going to do it again on the 28th, but it makes sense that your body would take over and be like food searching out. It's because the body's trying to raise leptin.
It's trying to signal for you to eat, it's a whole hormonal production thing. It's not like it's not like this goal to make you morbidly obese, like whatever your fear is. It's just not how it works. So that might happen, but it will slow. It is not like, and this isn't to try and like make you feel less of like, oh, don't worry, you're not going to gain weight. We're just telling you this because like it's just the facts. Like it's just none of this is as scary as you're making it. You will not lose your loved ones, right? You will not stop being supported and loved and worthy of other people. You will not become morbidly obese. You will not, because this is an interesting one that comes up a fair bit, you will not develop other issues such as
like diabetes,
cardiovascular disease and things. These things aren't actually going to happen. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But on this topic, I had an interesting question recently, which was I had someone who was actually doing a really great job of recovery. We on her own, we had like looked at her food logs, and I was like, you're eating tons of stuff, you're super young. I think that if you continue on your own, I think you'll be like, you're going to get your period back not too long. Like, your temperatures are good, you're seeing signs of mucus, but I can see what you're eating is great. But here are some areas. And so she didn't have any vegetables in her diet, right? Like, at all. And so it's like, curious, what's that about? I recommend that you add some. And she was like, well, I just heard that for recovery, vegetables are bad. And I was like, oh no. This is just another example, just like in the diet industry is exactly the same. The HA industry, if you will, is very similar, where we take this advice and we move it to an extreme. I do see all the time people be like, that like recovery is no time for vegetables. And I'm like, that's really, being very all or nothing there.
That is one thing I was like, remember, vegetables or lettuce and all this stuff was meant to be complementary. It was never meant to be your entire meal. So again, we're going from a side, having that as a side, to your entire meal. And then like we wonder why we have this imbalance or why our period's gone missing and stuff like that. And I love that, because I would never tell anybody not to eat vegetables. Now, I did have to pry lettuce from my client's hand, but that was simply because I was like, I need us.
Did you know that 1 in 8 couples struggle with fertility? That's over 7 million people in the United States alone. And the risk of miscarriage, it's more common than breast cancer or diabetes. The challenges of your fertility journey, we don't talk about them enough. We assume that when you're ready to have kids, it will be easy, but that just isn't the case for everyone. The journey can be expensive, mystifying, and full of disappointment and shame, but there is hope, and you are not alone. On the new podcast, Baby or Bust, host Dr. Laura Shaheen, an OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist, answers your questions, dispels the myths, and transforms disappointment into hope. Every episode of A Baby or Bust features interviews with experts and real-life infertility survivors to explore questions and answers like, should I put my hips up afterwards? Should I be eating pineapple to help with embryo implantation? Boxers or briefs? When do you know it's the right time to have a baby? Will plastics and toxins kill my eggs? What really causes a miscarriage? Hot tubs really kill sperm? And how do queer people have kids? Join Dr. Shaheen each week for practical approaches for your fertility journey. You are not alone, really. Find Baby or Bust on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Your favorite band's about to play a sold-out show. You got in.
Over here!
With a friend. And found a spot close enough to see the set list. They're definitely playing your song. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
To let this go so that you can take in other nutrients.
Yes.
So over a year ago, I created something called the 7-Day HA Recovery Commitment Challenge. And I've been running it for over a year. It was this free email-based challenge. So lots of reading, but you would get an email every day for 7 days to help you overcome and tackle the different but important areas that you need to be checking off in order to get your period back. Now, over time, I have collected some really great feedback, and upon working with all of these wonderful, amazing women, really started to learn even more about what works and what doesn't. And so I'm excited to be introducing to you guys the updated version. It's called the 7-Day HA Recovery Kickoff, and it is totally designed to help you not just commit to the process and have all of your ducks in a row in terms of important factors that need to be tackled and issues that need to be overcome in order to get your period, but the whole thing is now based in video. So you can listen/watch, and every day for 7 days, we will tackle nutrition. There's actually 2 days of that because it's so big. We'll tackle lifestyle, we'll tackle exercise, your support network, your mindset game. Each video goes from anywhere between 12 minutes and 5 minutes, so it's not very long, but you'll get all of the most important areas and the best tips and strategies for how to implement them. Because I know that going through recovery is hard. There's always an area for each person that is a little bit difficult to execute on. And so the goal, or maybe a lot difficult. So the goal of this challenge is to help you have the awareness, the self-awareness, and the tools and strategies you need to overcome each of the different issues that AHA recovery faces for us. So get on it. It's great if you're at the very beginning of recovery or if you're halfway through. I mean, we never know how far through we are until it's over, do we? But no matter where you're at, it can be a really good opportunity to check in and look for blind spots and areas where you might be dropping the ball in your nutrition, in your lifestyle, in, maybe it's your support network that's a problem. Maybe exercise is something that you are still struggling with making changes to. So check it out. Go to thehasociety.com/7-day-challenge, or the link will be on the website. So it may be in the show notes of this show. It may not be. Just go to thehasociety.com and you'll find it in the footer, or you'll find it in the pop-up that happens when you visit the page. And we will see you for day 1 of the challenge.
But you know what I mean? But she's still eating other vegetables, but just because salad is such a filler. Does that make sense that where I'm like, plus
we
going back
need
to
like a visual aid. We need a visual aid of like, this is what it looks like to have the vast majority of your meals be vegetable based, and therefore you are not getting sufficient calories. You are getting probably too much fiber, and your body's digestive system's working overtime. That's what this looks like. And then over here is, a meal with like a side of some greens or some cooked greens in your omelet, like some roast potato or roast pumpkin with your meal. Like, these things have nutritional value. They're not being eaten in excess, and it's coming back to that whole and we're also not saying like eat in moderation. That's not what we're like. We're saying add a bit of everything. It always comes back to this, right? Like, there's just room for a bit of everything, and if you don't focus solely on just the inclusion of one thing, that you no longer have space for the inclusion of other things. Like, does that make sense?
Oh, totally. So think about like that meal that I had brought up with the potatoes and sausage and bell peppers and onions. Like, the bell peppers and onions are a vegetable. So we can go ahead and check that off, but it's not the main show.
Yeah.
And that's where dieting. And so I don't think people are intentionally doing this. I think it's unfortunately a leftover from the dieting world that has just become your blind spot. Like, you just have no idea, right?
Yeah. And I like the way you worded it too, whereas it's not the star of the show. It's that's what they'll say in like culinary competitions, right? They'll be like, the protein was the hero of the dish.
Yeah.
Like, what's the hero of your dish? It probably shouldn't be the vegetable, but the vegetable should play a role in the cast. Like, it's just so interesting to me that there is this this approach by some people of like, oh, to recover, I actually should eat as much like grains and processed food as possible, because that advice is being given to people.
Yeah. So on that, I feel like there is, depending on your past history of food, if like you have demonized peanut butter, then go through a phase, eat the peanut butter.
Yeah.
You're going to come out of that, and then like you're going to eat normally. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I get the point of like not having fear foods, right? And stuff like that. But I think anyone that's listened to us knows that we know that the key to happy hormones is blood sugar levels being stabilized. And that is the key to health in general. And so, yeah.
I mean, that's exactly how I answered that question, was like, well, for you, because you're not dealing with, issues around food intake, around like fear foods of eating Oreos or whatever, you're not dealing with those. We're at a place where we can include other foods. But I totally understand how like someone who's coming from a like really intense, like vegan only, tons and tons of vegetables, may need to back off for a period of time. 100%. This is all very individual. At the end of the day, I can't see a single scenario where someone shouldn't have a singular vegetable, like the dish you were referring to that has like some bell pepper and onion in it, was it?
Yeah.
Like great. Like that's what I'm asking for.
Other side note that I had an experience, because I just went on vacation, and it was so interesting that while on vacation, I didn't pre-order my food. I didn't get it sent to the house, all the things that I would have done before. And my stepmom was just like, hey, you want some food? And I made sure I had some food for Nuggie and for me. And what was so interesting is that I know I didn't overeat. If anything, I was struggling to remember to eat. But you know what I mean? Like, cause like I was just so busy, what it is with family, right? You're just like, where'd the time go? Anyways, but it was so interesting because every other previous year I had gone with what now I realize was this subconscious fear that I would overeat on vacation. And when I stopped dieting, that's actually so much further from the truth, to where that's probably where I get in most trouble now post recovery, is probably not eating enough while on vacation because I'm so busy doing whatever, right? So it was just really, really interesting of how much we like, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where we're so afraid of overeating that, like we make the entire environment so that we will overeat, right? And then whenever you stop dieting and that's not even a mindset, you're just like, oh yeah, let me go get some food, like to the point where overeating wasn't even close to what had happened. So that's just some encouragement for some people that are like, will this ever get better? Yes.
Yeah, it's going to change many, many times over for the next like 5 years. You're going to have these different experiences.
Yeah. So that's been pretty cool, because now I've been going on trips with nugs and I'm like, no, actually I'm not overeating. When like left my own, you know what I mean? And in the most unprepared situations, no, I'm not overeating. So that's pretty cool.
Love it. You want to answer some questions?
Yes.
Okay. Before we dive in, Ashley and I are planning a live event in Austin TX on August 13th.
Mm-hmm.
It's free. Come on, join us. We're going to have an itinerary planned, but we're going to meet, we're going to hang out, we're going to be best friends forever. Fly in from the UK, fly in from Canada, fly in from Colorado, like come on down. And you can stay tuned to find out more about that. Just make sure you're on our email list. So you can just go to thehasociety.com or follow us on Instagram, and I'm sure you'll see something about it. I have a sign-up form that I'm sending out inside of my weekly emails at the moment. So if you want in on that, I already see some discussion in the group. If you saw Ashley, people planning their arrival.
Super excited. The place hopefully is that I've already picked out. Beautiful. So exciting.
Excited.
This curly hair situation better get itself sorted by then.
You'll be like I can already see you'll be a curly hair pro. You'll be telling people about your curl maintenance regime.
A curl journey.
Yeah, for anyone with mad curl tips, go contact Ashley. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of water. And let's begin. Nicole.bist asks, just discovered your channel full of resources and information for HA recovery, smiley face. I wanted to ask if in recovery it is fine to eat legumes, always with carbs and fats, or is it preferred to have meat
eggs or dairy more frequently. So I feel like this is a question of like permission to get your protein from legumes. How are you interpreting this?
I feel like because we've heard some practitioners in general say like beans are not great or like legumes are not great, that may be
like it's not paleo.
That or some other my interpretation of this is yes, permission. My thing is can you get your period back without them? Yes, you can also get your period back with them. And I personally love legumes. I don't overeat them because you literally can't, because you just get full, you know what I mean? Those type of things. But I think it's one of those things where if it's something that you want to eat, go for it. Like nothing negative is going to happen to you. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, same. I was like, during if you can tolerate them, eat them. Now is not really the time to be like narrowing in on the minute detailed pros and cons of certain food groups. In fact, that's what gets a lot of people in this situation in the first place. Right now, if you can eat it, if you enjoy it, that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, so that's one of the things of whether someone decides, actually, no, this is not for me, I don't want to eat it for this reason. I feel like that's where it's like optimization. And right now, the first key to optimization is getting your cycle back, then dial it in. I always like to think of it as like a camera lens, right? Like right now, our lens is pretty big and open because we need to include all these foods back in. And then we can dial it in tighter whenever you are restored, like your hormones are functioning. I feel like that's a really small rock when the big rock is calories.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, big rock. Okay, that's an easy one. Today's just like challenging me with people's Instagram handles, but here we go. Solly.Littenskate. This is what we get for having a high European listener base. She asks, "Hi, I'm very sorry for disturbing you, but I wanted to ask you a suggestion about HA recovery. First of all, none of you are ever disturbing us.
Nope.
Your questions merely become content for our podcast." Side note, on my YouTube channel, I've started doing DMs with Danny. I'm just going to answer your DMs on YouTube. So if you have questions, just come and ask us. Okay. I lost my period during 2021 summer because I was exercising too much and eating too little. And I also lost a lot of weight and my BMI was very low. I started my weight gain journey, ate in a calorie surplus, at the start of 2022, and my BMI became normal. Also, when I was underweight, I had huge vitamin deficiencies, but now my blood is perfect, no deficiencies. During my weight gain, I stopped doing high intensity workouts and did weightlifting. Now I want to start exercising normally and eating intuitively. I want to tone up in a healthy way, not by starving myself. Could you please suggest that what should I do to get my period back with my situation and still being able to exercise? I avoid high intensity workouts such as skipping, running, cardio, etc. I do bodyweight workouts, Pilates, and weightlifting. Loaded question.
Yes, she said, but I want to tone up, right?
Yeah, that's the bit that's like, we're gonna focus on.
Yeah. No, because I think everything was cool, but then I think, that's where our subconscious motives sometimes pop out in our words. So is it, how do I get my period back while toning up? Or is it, how do I get my period back while working in exercise or still exercising? Because I feel like those are two different kind of questions.
Yeah. Just from what I know about women, right?
As a woman.
Yeah. Like as a woman who like understands our people, just the insertion of I want to turn up in a healthy way
Yeah.
Can you please help me figure out how to work out and to exercise? We know your motive here for exercise. I will have people say things like, I want to exercise because it's my stress relief. I really genuinely do enjoy exercise. This person hasn't said that. So we're going to take it from that angle. Go for it.
So, yeah. Well, no. So first off, we love that you answer this question and you feel so safe to ask it. Yeah. No, honestly, because we all have these thoughts, right? I think this is where, we kind of talked about this, I think last time, where we have two options for your top priorities, and wherever you fall is going to impact your decisions and mindset. One could be toning up, aka I want to control my body composition still in some way while gaining weight, eating more, and healing my HA. And then there's, I want to ovulate, but I also want to move.
I think there's also, I want to do this, but I also don't have the patience to go through the weight gain piece, and I want to get back to weight loss. I think there's like a patience thing in there too sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right. And so I think anytime that exercise does not fall under ovulation in terms of priorities, we're going to sit in limbo land, or we're going to be revisiting the season of life multiple times. Because ovulation kind of lets us know where are your individual parameters when it comes to body composition, when it comes to fat, body amount of fat, what is too much exercise, what is not enough calories. Like it really does set the like boundaries for you, right? So if you ignore that, then it's a free for all. You could be as careful as you want, but it's still a free for all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's no world either where someone is both 100% focused on recovery and going to do what is best for their recovery, and
totally
currently trying to lose weight, which is what tone up means, right? There's no such thing as toning up
or manage. Yeah, right.
Like, can we address that for a second? Because I think that's another thing that you and I feel like everyone knows, but isn't necessarily true. So for anyone who still like uses the terminology tone up, that's not real. Like there's not,
that's a money scheme. That's a weight loss marketing.
Toning up just means weight loss.
Yes. And one thing to kind of keep into consideration, and so this is something, I mean, and I'll just speak from personal experience, that your genetics play such a big role on how much body fat you need in order to ovulate and to get pregnant. And it does have a range, right? So I was just talking to one of my clients of like, whenever I first got pregnant, I was like fresh out of HA. And so I still had, like I overshot my set point. I was at the highest I had, ever been. And like I got pregnant, but now some of that weight has just gradually fallen off due to like just my body settling. And now I can get pregnant at a lower weight. But had I poked the bear and tried to purposely tone up or lose weight, that would not have been the story. Does that make sense?
You have to let go of it in order.
Have to let it go.
It's such a trip.
It is wild that the moment you try to lose weight or tone up after you get your cycle, you are literally poking the bear. The bear is going to snap at you, and it's going to be in the form of weight loss resistance, probably losing your cycle, probably having to gain more, you know what I mean? And all these things. But if you just let it go and you leave your body alone, my whole thing is like, leave your body alone for a year after you recover your period. See where you're at, see how you feel in your body, that, you know what I mean? And then from there, I would just work on building muscle, right? But knowing that like you may not look as toned up unless there's some level of weight loss to it.
Yeah, 100%. And like the benefit of doing it the way you're talking about, if there is a recommended way of exercising at all for people with our history, it would be resistance training. I mean, the science is there for your metabolism, science is there for hormones, the science is there for bone density and helping with osteoporosis, osteopenia. Like that's just where it's at. You know what I mean? So like post recovery, after you've let your body be for a year or more, you know, maybe you're going to bring some resistance training in. I think there's value to that for all women. That's the thought. Like we don't really have tips for, you know, getting your period back and toning up at the same time. We have provided suggestions for exercising in a safe way during recovery with the emphasis on the fact that exercise doesn't equal weight loss. Exercise doesn't have to equal body composition changes. Exercise can just mean moving your body for other beneficial reasons. But in answer to this question, which is about toning up at the same time as recovery, it can't be done.
And that mindset unfortunately isn't new, and you're not the only one. I mean, I was like,
we all tried it.
We all tried it, and it all ended bad. That's why.
Look, I hear you, but I'm still gonna have a shot at getting my period back with exercise. There is like one or two people that will claim it, right? One or two people that will claim it. You know, I know Elise, our mate Elise over at Your Period PT. She also helps us over here with community calls and the social media for the society. She had a DM, you know, from someone who got their period back, but like felt like they didn't have to stop exercising and like all of the things that, you know, the all in community really preach. And I know kind of like hit Elise a little bit in the gut because she felt like, you know, this person was sort of telling her that like, you know, all you women having to go through this stuff, like it's bullshit, you're doing it wrong. But that's not the case. It's like, just because you didn't have to give up moving your body, like it's more nuanced than that.
Oh my gosh. And again, it goes back to genetics, right? I mean, there's so many things tied into it, like the value you put on it, the stress you put on it. Is it a ritual? You know what? I had posted something the other day, but like my healing journey of HA was literally the opportunity to fix all the things that were broken. You know what I mean? And so while that may not be a broken piece for you, that's okay. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's like one of those things of like, unfortunately, to go and say that nobody has to step away from exercise
just because you didn't have to.
Just because you didn't would leave a whole lot of women still in limbo.
You are absolutely the minority if that's you.
And so here's the thing, I didn't have to stop exercise, but I sure did have to eat a lot more than I think a lot of clients potentially right now, because I was still creating that energy deficit. You know what I mean? It's, you know, type of thing. But
I mean, I know that we're already coming up on time here, but what, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about this. I think people are going to find it becomes like a staple in my explanation for what we're doing, because the concept of like, well, she didn't have to do this, or she doesn't have HA and I do, like, why am I different? Doesn't make sense, makes me skeptical, yada, yada. Allostasis. I'm now talking about this a lot because I think it's really important for people to understand, and it's helpful. Allostasis, by definition, is the process by which the body responds to stresses in order to regain homeostasis. So everyone is at a different level of this, right? And that's why that girl over there has been running marathons and just got pregnant when her husband rushed by her, right? Whereas like that girl over there who has like a similar like lifestyle, perhaps, you know, lives in the same city, is the same age, like these things like this, maybe even runs the same amount, like isn't getting pregnant, right? Everyone has a different level of allostasis, and this comes back to your entire life up until now.
You have been through different stresses, different experiences in your life. You have eaten in a different way. You have had different dramas and different highs and lows. You've had different relationships. You've had different family history and genetic profiles. Like every single thing about you, when you look at it from that perspective, is different to that girl over there.
Yeah,
and
I
thus
think,
you will not have the same, you'll not be at the same starting point for reaching homeostasis.
Yeah. And I think even if it was the same thing, right? So think about, like, I know this sounds really twisted, but like, let's say that our dads died, like we would respond 2 different ways.
Yeah. Because we have different relationships with our dad.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And so I think that in itself is just proof, like, oh, so the same event can happen, but we respond differently. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
and this is why, you know, we all have different deficiencies and need, like from a holistic healing standpoint, like if we bring it back to like the vegetables, some people get a huge impact when we introduce root vegetables in as an addition to their current eating. And like things happen because their body's like, oh, like that was one of the missing pieces to my body's ability to handle stress day to day. Someone else is going to have a more minute impact. It's not going to really help as much because they're just coming from a much more depleted place. And so it's just really important that people understand that they're unique in that way.
And for once, you are a unicorn.
Yes, sometimes you're a unicorn.
But not a unicorn that can't get your period back.
Yeah, for everyone, food intake is crucial.
Yeah.
For everyone, there is individual variance. But across the board, we know that balancing blood sugar, giving your body as much rest as possible, all of these things are super important. Other side note, we should just do a different episode on it, but just talking about, like, we had a community call recently where we talked about extreme, like longevity people, keto diet, paleo diet, carnivore diet, like intermittent fasting. What's the deal? Why do these people say it's so beneficial, but everyone in the HA space says it isn't? Long story short, those people say that, but if you like went to practitioner school, right, and you did a whole intensive on the endocrine system and the reproductive system and on adrenal fatigue, healing and all of that goodness, you will find across the board, no one is recommending those things for people who have disrupted endocrine systems. Like I think that there are very few people who are like saying, oh, fasting will help you if you're in
an energy, reduced energy availability. Yeah. Yes, please go fast some more.
Yeah, like people aren't saying that. I think those people are like your individual allostasis, where you're coming from on your journey, your current medical situation or body situation is a very important context before applying blanket advice about diets. Yes. I feel like I'm just saying things now, so I'm gonna stop.
Well, this has been good. I gotta pick up nugs. This is a
peace out.
Do
Have
another
a good one. Everyone come send us your questions and we will indirectly waffle on about it.
Absolutely.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
You made it. Here. Finally. Checked out of office to check into the sweet views of that place you've always wanted to go. You know the one. It's nice. Even the kids like it.
This place is so cool.
And they never like it.
Mom, can we go to the pool?
Look at that. Not even asking for the Wi-Fi. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Introducing Under Armour's Infinity High Sports Bra. Its ergonomic design is molded to support the natural movement of your body. With cord-out padding, the better breathability eliminates extra bulk without sacrificing support. And quick-dry padding is Under Armour's fastest-drying padding yet. When you're lifting heavy, running fast, and pushing yourself further than ever before, you need a bra that will help you go that extra mile and make you feel your best. Shop the Infinity High Sports Bra now at UA.com.